Hi everyone, thank you so much for coming this evening with our topic, Crystalle Lacouture, whose work is featured in our show in the back wall and then also in the back room here. I'm Annika Early, I'm the Managing Director of Crystalle Project. I'll introduce Crystalle and then she'll talk a little bit, but really this is intended to be conversational and casual, so if you have questions, please feel free to ask them as they come up. You likely already know that Speedwell is an artist-run nonprofit gallery that promotes and archives the work of women who have made a lifetime commitment to their work. We were recently awarded our own 501c3 status, which makes us a very independent nonprofit, which is exciting, and we have a lot of really wonderful, exciting things in the works for next year. We are currently in our fundraising season, and we need your help to continue to create a lasting legacy for women artists. We have an auction online on our website. We have wonderful work up to, you can bid on wonderful work by local and regional, and I think, correct me if I'm wrong, we have artists from all over the place. Yeah, it's not just Maine-based, really wonderful pieces. If you'd like to make a tax-deductible donation, you can do so on our website or come talk to me, and we are really, really grateful for your support and your presence here tonight. Crystalle Lacouture is an artist based in Boston and North Adams, Massachusetts. She received her BFA in painting and printmaking from Skidmore College in 2000, where she received the Pamela Weideman Excellence in Printmaking Award. While living in New York, Crystalle was a longtime assistant to activist and artist Nancy Spiro and Leon Golub. Am I saying his last name right?
Golub,
sorry. And a printmaker and resident key holder at the Lower East Side Print Shop. She has attended residencies at Surf Point Foundation, Vermont Studio Center, the Vanguard Mastheads, the Contemporary Artist Center, and Room 83 Spring. Her work is in the collections of Fidelity, the Hammond Museum, and Skidmore College. In addition to her full-time studio practice and other curatorial projects, Crystalle is a curator at Taurus, a hotel near Massamoka in North Adams, Massachusetts. She exhibits her work throughout New England and New York and is represented by Beth Kantorowicz from BK Projects and Drive-By Gallery in Boston. Welcome, Crystalle.
thank you. Hi, this is so nice, and it's a little bit difficult with the mask, so if you can't hear me, let me know. I'm so happy to have Emily Stark-Menig, one of my favorite artists, also Grace DeGenero, who is a super favorite artist, someone that inspires this work that you'll look at tonight, and also my great friend Annie Newman, also a great artist. So this is so nice. I wanted to start by reading a short poem that has inspired me. And it's funny because a lot of my work is inspired by words, or I think about words when I make it, and I keep reading this poem over and over again, and you'll understand why. It's subtle, but it's called Mowing by Ada Limon. The man across the street is mowing 40 acres on a small lawnmower. It's so small, it must take him days, so I imagine that he likes it. He must. He goes around each tree carefully. He has 10,000 trees. It's a tree farm, so there are so many trees. One circle here, one circle there. My dog and I have been watching, the lights escaping the sky, and there's this place I like to stand. It's before the rise, so I'm invisible. I'm standing there, I've got the dog, and the man is mowing in his circles. So many circles. There are no birds or anything, or none that I can see. I imagine what it must be like to stay hidden, disappear in the dusky nothing, and stay still in the night. It's not sadness, though it may sound like it. I'm thinking about people and trees and how I wish I could be silent more, be more tree than anything else, less clumsy and loud, less crow, more cool white pine, and how it's hard not to always want something else, not to just let the savage grass grow. So I read that because that poem is kind of about doing the same thing over and over again, despite nature and how it's just going to go away, and the grass is going to grow again, and you just keep repeating this process to find something new, or to find yourself, or because you must, and sort of how I feel about my work, and especially this Mama series here, and maybe all of us artists are doing the same thing over and over again, but having revelations each time. So I sent this to Annika, and I thought I'd just talk for a second about some older work, just to bring us up to what I'm doing now. And I don't know if anyone has seen these works before. These are housecoats of my grandmother. I have a French grandmother, and she lives in a small village in the south of France, and she still has like a very traditional way of living. My grandfather just died a couple weeks ago, but he was like 95, and she's 90. She has lettuces growing all year round. It's a very amazing kind of old world life. And so I think my work for the last like 5 or 6 years has been so much about memory and about textiles and patterns, and how textiles, patterns, wallpaper, things you can touch, things you have experiences with, can send you back to a place, a specific place, as if they're like a shorthand for an experience or a time. And I moved around a lot as a kid, so I have kind of like a fractured timeline, and therefore I think holding on to these like snippet pieces of information is like a very interesting poetic way for me to think back on somebody, or my mother, or a year, or a house, or a couch, or something like that. So this first painting here is called Mammy, and that's my grandmother, and it's like this big, and it was a completely abstracted painting about her house coats. She wears all these beautiful house coats, and they're all very, all kind of similar but different, and she wears new ones each day. And I felt like I'd make like a composite of all of these house coats, and then play with the painting of making it portrait by just adding this white, and how just adding a little bit of, like a background makes it her body. And I hang it low, and so it's kind of like a hug. And so then I've continued this, and so here's another house coat. And then this painting and some of the other ones I'll show you they're textiles of, again, memory, like of my mother's skirt. This one's called Mother's Skirt. And it's not exact, I'm not looking at fabric, I'm just kind of remembering what it looked like to me, like using it as dress-up clothes or something. So, but they're completely imagined and made up. And this one too is called Poppy Lipstick. It's about my mother's dress. But I play little games, like I like systems-based conceptual practices in making the painting. So I made like one tile, and then I continued each tile until it kind of, with only looking at the one before, so it kind of unravels a little bit. So they're not perfect. They're kind of about fabric, but they don't need to be like, taped edges or anything. Here's another one. Lisa actually owns this painting. This painting is called Forgiveness. And I'm really interested in this size of a painting. For me, it's like 40 by 50, which feels like a baby blanket, like a baby quilt size. And it's like just enough to cover the body, like a personal blanket. And so this one is kind of, what is it called? The Dresden Circle. There's a quilt pattern that's called like the Dresden Circle or something. So that's a ripoff of that. But I did the same thing where I made, one and made it like a language of like going left to right all the way down. This is another painting called Recording the Moon. This is from 2020. I'm also really interested in timekeeping and diaristic kind of calendar making. So this painting was sort of about observing nature, seeing again this kind of like dissolving of like a system, calendars, celestial stuff. Keep going. And these two, these are memory quilts, and it's a little hard to see. You're welcome anytime to look up or come up afterwards and look at, but this is it's 40 by 50 again, and it's like a digital printout, and it's all photographs of my daughter's clothing from when she was 0 until she was 10. So it's like a portrait of her in 10 years. And I just felt like I wasn't somebody who could make like beautiful quilts. I wasn't like really good at storing things nicely, but if I could just have that photograph, then I could make like, make a digital quilt, and then I would always have it as sort of like a compressed memory file where I could conjure up the feeling of her body at all of those ages, just by remembering what she looked like and wearing that specific thing. Like there's hats, shorts, skirts, dresses, sweaters, everything. And I did one for each of my kids. And this one here is called Sunny. So that one's called Louise, and this one's Sunny. And Sunny is one of my identical twins. And since he has every day of his life worn stripes, this one is all stripes. So when I don't have an image of Felix on this one, but if you have Sunny and Felix together, you know which one is his, and which is Felix. So yeah, I love the idea of, and again, maybe because of all my moving around, I love the idea of like portability. Like you can just, you have this thing on like a, what are they called? Like a quick flash drive or something, and you can leave, like the house is on fire and you still have the information. Why am I showing this? I guess the pandemic really messed with all of us, right? And so I felt like I wanted to just shake things up, and I made all sorts of crazy stuff. But I was really interested in the idea of democratic art making and printmaking and flowers and like idealized images and I don't know, making what you want to see, like having something beautiful out the window, looking out the window, but also kind of stifled. Similar, this is like Rit dye, and I don't, this is not really relevant. And then I did this mail art project. You've received one, and you will all receive them. And this was, after this hard year, last year, I sent a letter to people, like asking them to basically burn away their troubles, like to address all the grievances of the terrible year, write them down in this like super formal letter, put them in this envelope, light them with these matches that say welcome future, keep the little souvenir print, and then burn it at New Year's, and wash away the troubles. So that is that. And then I did these light works. And then back to this. So this is my first, also in the pandemic, I felt very stuck and in a rut, and my mother was diagnosed with cancer, and it was quite grave, and like sudden. So it really was jarring, and I couldn't be with her. And I was looking for ways, I was just looking to play with stuff and looking for materials in hardware stores and wherever. And I went to a sporting goods store, and I found these shooting targets. And I thought, oh, this is so interesting. It's like, I love pattern, I love calendars. And so I started making these moon calendars. They're made up. They're not really about watching the moon or phases of the moon or actual days or time. But that's kind of, the nebulous quality of our time in the pandemic was such that we were all looking out the window, we were noticing more about nature, but everything was blurry and a little bit, suspended and strange. So I made a ton of these moon calendars, and I just thought it was really interesting to take a ready-made paper and sort of like negate what it was about and change it into something that was like soft and poetic and about observation and about exploration and colors. And they were cheap paper, so I just kept making a lot of these things, and they were kind of fun, and they spoke to people, so I kept going until I had lots of these papers, and my mom was so sick, I couldn't be near her. COVID was horrible. I was constantly in grief, like all of us. My kids were yelling at me and all around. And so I felt so helpless. And so I thought, what can I do? What can I do to show love? I just started playing on these things. And then I'm really drawn to feminine colors and pink and all of these sort of like kind of poppy imagery as well. And so I guess I just started making several of these. And then I think probably after a phone call with my mom, still feeling like I couldn't be with her in this time of need, feeling just, it was just really tough. And I started writing mama into the drawings, kind of just as like, maybe if I could mail this to her, I could give this to her. Something about sitting at a desk rather than making big paintings made me feel really like quiet contemplative and like I was writing letters. And so I just started building this series. And as I was telling Grace before, I think I have almost 100. And it's nice because there's a very complete, it's a complete process. I sit, and in 3 hours, I may be listening to something or get up to wash the dishes or cook dinner, and then I come back and it's done. Like I put it away into the stack. And so that feels like very rewarding, especially when things are kind of in flux and the big painting is demanding a lot of things. The household is demanding things, COVID. And so I keep making these, and I keep thinking about how they are about a devotional practice. Maybe that the magical thinking, the superstition of being able to do something is better than not doing anything, and maybe there's power in that, and maybe the quality of the paper, because it's about violence and it's something that's disposable, it's disarming, and it heightens your senses immediately to see that, and then to obscure that with something that's about love. It just makes it kind of pulse and become sonically interesting and just more powerful. It gives it an aura. And so I think about auras, and I think about all those religious sort of mandalas, prayer wheels, things with numbers, pyramids, and I like just stacking them all up to make these super powerful things that to me are about doing something that I can do when I feel like I'm not very helpful at the moment. So I keep making these, and what else? And then there's another series over here, let's see. There's a lot. And I think of them as flags, tablets, talismans, books, pages. I mean, there's so much to unpack that I could probably just keep going and going. And then they've also inspired paintings. I'm not sure that the translation between the drawings and the paintings makes total sense yet, but I'm working on that. But there's something interesting there. And also, I mean, maybe in my mature stage of my career now, I will try anything is sort of my motto. And so my process is also to make a lot of things and to edit down to the best, and that feels good. So I don't know if I would stand by all of these as my favorite things, but oh yeah. And so these are mother and child. Oopsie. Oops. So these two paintings are over here, and this is just another exploration about families and bodies and paintings as objects and having a conceptual purpose, not just as a single plain image. And so this one's called Mother and Child. It's over there. My daughter is 12, and our bodies we're getting closer in size. So I like that it's a little bit of a subtle connection. They can be sold separately, and they can be sold as one piece because that's how life will go. And this is another version of Blue, and it's funny. I think this one's also about her. Boy girl colors. There's something. She's 12. There's a lot of gender interest at this age. There's a lot of fluidity with her friends and herself, and it's just it's kind of new to me, and it's exciting, and I appreciate how open they all are. And then I'll show this last thing. This is a project. I've made 6 or 7 of these, and they're inspired by Klaus Oldenburg. He has this really wonderful drawing at MoMA, and it's called Flag to Put in Pocket. And it's just this very crinkled gray drawing on some kind of I don't know, it's almost newsprint, it's all very wrinkled. And so I thought, it was so beautiful, and I thought too that maybe in this time of need and struggle and flux and politics and all this shit, I could make these flags that people could put in their pocket. And so I've dyed all these Japanese shikishu papers, And it's almost like cloth, and so I dye them and I crinkle them. They're almost like tie-dye. And then I've made some prints on them, and this one says, "It's okay, it's all right." But the idea is that it can fold down to like this size, and you can keep it with you whenever you need it. And then if you felt you needed your flag, you pull it out. But I just like the idea of like having the secret and then the power. And so that's just an ongoing series for me. So yeah, I guess all the work is a little bit about, yeah, that's it. All the work is a little bit about care and tenderness. And Annika, thank you so much for inviting me, because this really hits it on the head for me. Yeah. Any questions? Do you guys want to look at these, or we can walk around? Did I just race through that? Nice to meet you. Oh, I'm so happy. Oh, cool. Yeah, so these are these drawings.
They look great.
Thank you. Yeah.
Or the work
Yeah.
you were showing, that where it sort of starts with one image, and
Yeah.
I mean, do you literally start in the upper left-hand corner
Yeah.
and paint each
Yeah.
square?
Yeah. That was the idea. No. That was just this conceptual thing I was doing with these like these invented textiles. So, yeah. And so these are all just little power packs that can be, held, given away, mailed.
What's the medium you use?
So they're all gouache. There's sometimes colored pencil, but usually just gouache. And the cool thing for me is the variations are infinite. I could just keep going for the rest of my life and never repeat something. And I also like the tools are the measure. So, I have like one thing of like circle stencils and then one ruler, and that's everything. I don't need anything complicated.
It's very generative.
Yes, it's so generative, and then it's all about balancing, and so then there's not enough here, you add another circle. I like just having those few elements that you just move around or, multiply. Yeah, and again, quilts. Who doesn't love quilts? Yeah.
Can you talk about why you put it off, why you decided to start working on that paper, the charcoal paper?
Yeah. Well, because I think because I just started playing, I really like the idea of games and discovery on something that is those graph paper or doodling on something that's already text or written on. So I just liked playing, and then I thought this is like the content of this paper is just very intense. There's all of these words that are kind of scary, there's these speed words: velocity, bullet, rifle, model, champion. There's barcodes, all this crazy fucked up society stuff, and this recycling symbol. And it's just not my world at all. Air gun, small bore, and I just there's the whole world is in this, and then this hippie love artist takes this weird manufactured material and makes these kind of beautiful, devotional, hopefully healing drawings for somebody who's not well, or all of us who aren't well. And another little secret is that my mom's name is Marlene Adelman, and so Mama, it's kind of like her. And she's also a really famous herbalist, and so she's wellness has been about her whole life and her passion. And so and she's really young too, so we all have sickness and death in our life, but I think for her it was just so shocking. So
How's she doing?
she's pretty sick, really sick. Yeah, but it's also universal. The word mama is universal to all of us, and I looked this up, and it's really many languages have that same sound. Even I don't speak Chinese, but I think it's something similar. Even non-Western languages, there's often a m sound, it's a first sound by a baby to their primary universal, primary person. We all have a mom. So yeah, I feel all those things make the drawings even more charged and can connect to anybody. Yeah.
And the whole thing is scorekeeper.
Scorekeeper. Right, so it's keeping score, but really it's more about keeping time to me, since it's one a day. Yeah, and I like all these little funny things. Like when I make them in my studio, I just have them all hanging on nails because they already have a hole, and it's great. We're ready to buy right off the shelf. So.
Talk more about the spiritual influences.
Yeah. Well, who didn't see did you see the Helm of Clint show?
Well, I didn't get to in person though, but
yeah.
Yes.
Well, I
very
think
familiar.
that's there. You know, I'm a mom. I'm like, I love yoga. I grew up Catholic, raising our kids Jewish. I mean, my mom is like a semi-Buddhist. There's just all of these influences. But I'm also totally skeptical of all of that stuff. And also I was a little bit brought up in this kind of New Age tradition, and I'm kind of skeptical of that as well. And I love ancient devotional art, like from many cultures. And so those things are always in my brain. I love stained glass windows and Tibetan sand paintings and all of that is in Indian prayer wheels. All of these things are really powerful, and so they're there, but it's more of like sort of an acknowledgement, not a belief in them, or like a trying to use that same symbolism as my own, or about something that's like divine. Like I think art is divine. I think talking to people is divine. You know, those are much more of a humanistic tradition.
Crystal, do you have a systematic way of building the color palette for these, or is it more intuitive?
I think it's really intuitive. I like these super high colors, like the pinks and the reds, but I always balance with like a pale. So that, I think that's just my own taste. Like I love this shell pink, and I love mustard. I think I have we all have these palettes. I think Emily has a palette. I think Grace has a palette, where it's just what balances your work for yourself is a certain recipe of colors, and that is something I'm always doing. And also grouping together, there has to be sort of like a balance. But I also like them to be a little insane. So, and catching your eye.
Yeah.
So.
When you sit down, do you feel like you know what's going to happen each day, or is it always revealing itself?
I have no idea. I have no idea. Yeah. I usually try to recreate success from another one, But yeah, there's just, it's totally infinite. And the latest ones I've been doing, I'm just covering the whole page and just maybe having keeper or, one little thing showing. Because, yeah, I think I have to finish through this year at least. And then the idea was maybe through my mother's illness to make that a complete, but that feels morbid to me. So I'm not sure. They'll be, I know how to do these, so that will be there at the desk. And now I'm stringing beads and making woodcuts, and I think we all do lots of things. So, any other questions?
You mentioned
Yeah.
observation as part of your practice. How does that come into? Is it in this work too, or how does
Say it again. Observation?
Observation, yeah.
There's not really. These are so imagined. There isn't really much observation in these. Maybe observation from one to the next. The moon calendars, that was more about looking at the moon and really getting into the phases of the moon, and we kind of all became like nature creatures. I felt like during the beginning of the pandemic, at least. But no, these don't feel like they're about nature to me. They feel like they're more about sound, and about a graphic sensibility, and just trying to make something that's very supercharged, and intense for the eye, pleasing to the eye.
How long would it typically take you to make one?
I think 3 hours is probably the right amount.
Yeah, I notice they're always symmetrical. Did you ever make any that aren't symmetrical?
Yes, some of them are a little more crazy, and off balance. That's something I have to push myself towards, because I do like to settle into these kind of quilty looking things. Yeah. But it is fun because the mama is hidden somewhere in all of them, and I like that the day that I realized that, oh, it's my signature. It's like the chop. It's like the thing that you put it on when it's the end, and so that another part of that like full completion feeling. Yeah.
I really am like responding to the delicacy of the paper and
Yeah.
the way it buckles from and creates this new topography from the paint.
Yes.
And the way it's absorbed that paint. And so I'm wondering if you worked on this kind of paper before, or how that is different for you than, say, working on a canvas, and depending on if you're using different kinds of paints for each.
Right. That's a good question. I also like that the wrinkling and the buckling and the way that, because it doesn't like, the paper does not really like being painted on like this, right? So if you felt one, they feel like it's almost like an applique, like, you know, the paint is sitting on it so much, it's weird, and then the paper is flimsy and like weak. And I'm curious to see what happens over time, because I know there are some that are more yellow than others. And so probably not through a frame, but I think maybe they'll even disintegrate, who knows? But I think the painted part will stay and not change. So that could be interesting. Yeah, and they rip easily, and there's like coffee stains on some of them. Like here, like.
It really feels like it celebrates like resilience in some way, and this kind of like a spirit of joy and healing, because it seems like so extreme in some way, that delicateness or that toughness of the paper.
Yes, or the content of the paper is so like fucked up, and it's like, you know what? No, you can't tell me that this is about guns. I'm in a like flower power. Like I keep thinking about that thing where it's like the pistol shooting the flower, you know, like that, like not like make peace, not war. And it's kind of like there's something about that. The negation makes it more like heightens your senses.
And they were made to be destroyed.
Exactly, and disposable. I buy them, $3 for a 12-pack. And also like the variations within the type of target. I mean, I have like all these different ones. There's some that are checked. There's some that are small. There are green ones, red ones, pink ones. I mean, it's really, it's a world. It's a world I know nothing about.
Are you raising concern at Cabela's that you're buying so many Targets?
They know. Last time I bought a whole stack of them, the guy's like, "You're such a cool mom," and I was like, "If you only knew." Yeah, I thought I was like, they were archery papers or something. Yeah. So it's been fun.
I think that the fact that the paper, that images like this often appear on an Asian paper, which is very delicate, which also has wrinkles as a result of the pigment being put on. But the fact that the paper is the opposite of that, and it has all this text and it's paper, is really,
and barcode.
really interesting.
And barcode. I mean, I'm subverting like what this material is about, and it says champion. I mean, there's so many funny like 70s graphics about them. And back to Emily's question, I've been a printmaker my whole life too, so I'm very familiar with like, very fine mulberry papers and all of these like really, and I love paper. So the way this one responds to paint is something I'm very like interested in. Like I'm not flattening them out. I like them to be hung and imperfect and a little mangled. So, yeah. Any other questions?
Do you have any current studio challenges or hurdles you're trying to jump over?
Good question. I mean, yes, a lot. Keeping interested. Translating these into paintings is not very easy. So now I'm doing a different series that has little to do with these, because I feel like it's just different bodies of work. Like this is this thing, something else is happening in the paintings. But I'm really like ADD or hyper or something. Like I really like, I have stations, like there's the beads, the woodcuts, the drawings, the paintings, and I just like kind of bounce around when I feel stuck in one department. and I walk the dogs a lot. That revives my brain. But yeah.
Are your paintings in oil?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oil is such a Western medium.
It is.
I've had trouble also going from watercolor to oil because they're just so different in the way they look and
Yeah.
and these are having Eastern sensibility.
They do. They really do. Right. They're so flat, and like as a printmaker, I love that kind of graphic flattened quality. My biggest problem is that I'm really bad with my materials. Like I don't wash my brushes ever. I'm the worst. Because the time is so important. Like I leave things like I use these little like jam jar lids as like my little palettes all over the place with brushes stuck in them, and I come back 2 days later and everything's ruined again. So yeah, I need like an assistant to wash the brushes. But yeah. Yeah. So, well, thank you guys so much. I hope that made some sense. Thank you. Thanks. Way to come out on a cold Thursday, dark December night.